It's a beautiful day in Cape Cod. It can't get better than this. And all of us that share our love for this area, we value these days a great deal. And the fact that you're here says one thing, that you value other things more than that. You value what parents and children value when they have aspirations for their children so that they can get an early education, afford a secondary education, get a job and own a home. That's what you value. That's what we value. And we value a health care system that does not do what the House and the initial Senate health care system does. It does not take 40% of the primary funding for children and cut it. It doesn't take 2/3 of the money for nursing home care and cut that. It doesn't take the 49% that's there for maternity costs and giving birth for children in our country and cut it. And we want the kind of system that does not fail to cover treatment for opioid addiction and behavioral health and pre-existing conditions. And we do not want a system that will impose an age tax on the people from 50 to 64, which in my district alone means $5,269 out of pocket your first year. That's who's paying for their plan. And where does the money go that's taken from this? It goes for a tax break for the richest people we have in our country who aren't even asking for that. 40% of that tax cut goes to people with incomes over $1 million a year. So we don't want a system that cripples our economy. And Cape Cod healthcare system right here, you know what those plans mean? A cut of over $300 million in the next 9+ years. Right here in Cape Cod healthcare system alone. So we're at a critical stage. We're under attack on many of our values. The rule of law, freedom of religion, freedom of the press, women's privacy issues. And on a day like this, where we appreciate Cape Cod, the environment protection. So listen, we're here and we're lucky to have someone, by the way, who really was on the front page of the Time magazine. She was really there. And we have someone for all those values that I just mentioned that not only supports them, but is a champion of those values and is fighting day in and day out, not only in Massachusetts, but around the entire country. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you, my friend, our supporter, a person that shares our values, Senator Elizabeth Warren. We'll sit right here, yeah.
Thank you. Fabulous job, Bill. Thank you. Yes. Thank you. Oh, we're going to have fun. Sit down. Sit. I have to start by saying that there is no one who has been a better partner than Bill Keating. Thank you for all you do for the Cape. First rate. All right, so here's the plan. I'm going to talk a little bit. Then we're going to do questions. And when we get ready to do questions, Julian Cyr, state senator, is somewhere here. He's going to come up and be the MC for making that happen. And then once we've done some questions, I'll stay here if anybody wants to take a picture. And we'll just have some fun. So I want to say, guys, we drove in. It is so beautiful outside today on the Cape. It is. The breeze is up. It's just gorgeous out there. And all of you wanted to come in and talk about policy. I love Massachusetts. I love Massachusetts. So much fun. And let me just make sure you can hear me in the back row. Back row? Okay, good. You know, I'm a school teacher, and I always keep an eye on the back row. Yeah, let's hear it for our school teachers. You bet. They will be helping me keep an eye on the back row. We know why you sit in the back row. Okay. But I am. I'm delighted that you're all here today. And what I want to do is I'll talk about whatever you all want to talk about. We can talk, oh God, there's so much to talk about. I know, can you believe? You know, but we'll talk about whatever questions you have. But I thought before we got started, I actually wanted to see if I could set a little bigger frame, kind of a long arc view about what's been going on in America and about what's happening to working families across this country. And so I'm going to start in 1794. I really am. Get out your lunch. You know, I see people heading for the exits. But no, the reason I want to do this, 1794, 95, 96, right in there. 1790s, because that was one of our first, as a country, our first big financial crashes. So the economy builds up and blows up. And here's the interesting thing. Everybody drops. And then about 20 years go by. The economy gets better, and it gets better, and it gets better. And then it gets really good. Oh, and then it gets exceptionally good. And then it blows up again. And the thing about when it blows up, it not only takes down the land speculators or the speculators on Wall Street, it takes down a lot of small business owners. It takes down a lot of employees. It takes down a lot of farmers. And then it all builds up again. And it's pretty tough on people. And that happens roughly about every 20 years throughout our history, from the late 1700s, right after we become a country, until the big one hits in 1930. And in 1930, the most remarkable thing happens. Franklin Roosevelt says, we can use government to do better. This is not something that has to happen. It is not a law of gravity. We can do better. And he picked up two tools. He used two tools to make this happen. The first one, if there are any children present, please cover their ears. It was regulation. I'm serious. He said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to put a cop on the beat on Wall Street. We're going to separate high-risk investment banking from checking account and savings account banking. Glass-Steagall. FDIC insurance. We're going to make it safe to put money in banks. And we're going to start enforcing the antitrust laws. So big businesses don't get to roll over small businesses and startups before they can even get going. And the whole idea was just, let's level the playing field a little. Let's see if we can make this just a little more level so more people get a chance to get in the game. That was tool number one. And tool number two, what a remarkable people we were. Tool number two was progressive taxation, and take that money, not for redistribution, take that money to invest in opportunity. And that's what we did. We invested in education. 1930s to about 1980, man, we doubled down and we doubled down again. We invested in K-12 education. We invested in public universities. A grateful nation said to returning GIs, we'll help you get a college diploma. We invested on into the 60s into student loans. We'll subsidize for the kids who have to borrow money. We'll set up Pell Grants for kids that come from poor families, because we are America and we believe in opportunity. And we believe that if our kids can get more education at any level, 8th grade, high school, community college, 4-year college, they're going to have more opportunities. We believe that all the way to our toes. And we made those investments together. Second thing we invested in, infrastructure. Infrastructure, roads and bridges, so businesses could get their goods to market. We invested in electricity and power. When Franklin Roosevelt became president, huge parts of America had no electricity. And what we said as a country is you can't be part of a 20th century economy if you have no electricity. Nobody's going to come start a business where there's no electricity. And so all of us, even those who lived in cities, which already had electricity, we all pitched in some of our nickels That's how we did it, through progressive taxation, and we made sure that all of America got a chance to move into the 20th century. It was about opportunity. And the third part we invested in, what are people? We invested in ideas, in research. We invested in scientific research and medical research and engineering research and behavioral research. Why? This one was just pure belief that if we invested in all those forms of research, something was going to pay off. Something was going to help our children and our grandchildren create a world that we hadn't even dreamed of. So we made those investments. 1935 to 1980, we invested and we invested and we invested. And here's the deal. It worked. It worked. GDP, if I were I would have a slide, right, for this. But this is the budget version, so I'm just going to dance the GDP, right? So, okay. So I'm trying to think about this from where you're sitting. Okay, so GDP over time, right? Time runs this way from where you are. GDP just keeps going up and up and up. 1935 to 1980, GDP goes up. And here's the heart of it. The 90% of America, everybody outside the top 10%, the 90% of America got 70% of all the new income growth created in this country. Yeah, okay, the rich did better, but America, we built the greatest middle class on the face of this earth, and we did it together. We did that. It was amazing. The pie got bigger, and everybody, this is the thing to know about the numbers here, upper middle class, working poor, poor. Everybody got some of it. Everybody did a little bit better. Now, look, I don't kid myself. There are a lot of people that were closed out of that economy. And we can talk about where women weren't allowed to work. We can talk about African Americans, LGBT held firmly in the closet. But let me just pick up one thing for which we have data, and that is African Americans. We started in the 1940s measuring the black-white wealth gap. And boy, whites had a whole lot more wealth than blacks. But here's the deal. We so committed to opportunity that when we passed a series of civil rights laws in the 1960s, in just the 15-year period from 1965 to 1980, we shrunk the black-white wealth gap by 30%. That's pretty darn good. Not perfect, but pretty darn good. So that's the America we built. We built together, firmly rooted in the idea everybody gets a chance. Everybody counts. We're moving in that direction. 1980, it changes. Ronald Reagan, trickle-down economics, right? And here's the deal. The heart of trickle-down economics has two parts to it. The first one, deregulate. And what does deregulation really mean to those guys? It means turn loose the giant banks, turn loose Wall Street, and let them do whatever they want to do. What could possibly go wrong? And that's what they did. Little bits over time, we saw what could possibly go wrong. The second part is that progressive taxation. They said tax cuts for those at the top, and then do it again, and then do it again. Tax cuts for those at the top, and everybody in here can guess exactly what happened. That meant, as a proportion of our GDP, we shrunk up our investments in education, our investments in infrastructure, and our investments in research. And here's the deal. It worked. So what happens? GDP keeps going right on up. Both time periods. Use both sets of approaches in Washington. GDP keeps going right on up. But the difference? The 90%. So the 90% that had done so well in the first time period, the 90% from 1980 to 2017, think about that, 37 years, right, 36 years to 2016. How much of all that great new income growth did they get? Answer, 0. 100% of new income growth in this country since 1980 has gone to the top 10%. Oh, and that black-white wealth gap tripled. So that's the America we live in. We live in an America that is working great for the rich and the powerful. It's working great for them. But the rest of America, whether you're at the top of it or the bottom of it, is hanging on by their fingernails. And why? Because of policies set in Washington by politicians there. So what I wanted to talk about today is I wanted to talk about that frame. People talk a lot. They say, I hate all the bickering in Washington. I hate gridlock. You've heard a lot about gridlock, right? It ain't gridlock. No, it's not. Gridlock just, it sounds like, two jerks made it to the traffic intersection at the same moment, and they're both just too dang stubborn to back up. No. What we're fighting over right now in Washington is a fundamental vision of who we are and what kind of a country we're going to build going forward. And so, when I talk about this fight, I talk about this fight every chance I get in terms of what it means for all of us, Democrat, Republican, Independent, what it means for people who aren't in the top 10%, who are doing pretty good, but somewhere along that long slide. And so, for me, what this fight is all about is about this fundamental question. Will Washington work just for those at the top? Or will Washington work for the rest of us? I'm in this fight because I believe that America must work for all of us. And I wanted to be here with a room full of fighters. So that's why I'm here. You bet. You bet. Okay. Yeah. So that gives you the big part, and I promise no quiz on this at the end. But let's get Julian up here. Where's Julian? Julian!
Wow,
Julian.
Cape Cod.
All right.
Let's give it up for Congressman Keating and our senior senator, Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you. All right.
Woo! So when the congressman and senator, talked, we said a little bit like, hey, do you think we could get a forum together of folks, a town hall in July? Would people on the Cape, would they leave the beach? Would they come? And, I said, I think we'd more than fill the auditorium. Well, we've not only filled this auditorium, but another 2 overflow rooms.
Yeah.
And I feel, and so for those folks watching on the televisions, I feel so honored to be up here with Congressman Keating, who's been a fighter since literally day one in public service.
Yes.
And we are so fortunate to have Bill fighting for the Cape and Islands and all of southeastern Massachusetts. And to be here with Senator Warren, who literally and figuratively cares about making sure that every single person gets in the door. And while you folks, and I mean this literally, while you folks were waiting for us to get on here, we dashed down to the folks who are watching in the cafeteria and spent about 10, 15 minutes taking their questions, dashed down to the folks who are watching downstairs. And I think that's just indicative of who Elizabeth Warren is and what she, this remarkable quality and humanity and perseverance and tenacity that she brings to this work. So I'm just so grateful and feel so lucky to be up on this stage. And it's a real reminder to me, and I think to all of us, that we've got to stay vigilant about making sure that everyone gets in the door, gets in the room, has a shot and a chance here in Massachusetts, here on Cape Cod, and across our country. So ready to go?
Ready to go.
So I'm gonna pick up 3 questions and three numbers rather. And if your number is called, please make your way to the microphones. I think we have a microphone there. and we have a microphone here. And do we have another one? And we have one up there.
Right up there somewhere.
So identify right up there on
Right
the
up
top.
there.
So if you're in the balcony, you've got someone right over there. So I'm going to call 3 numbers at a time. Please queue up, and the senator and congressman will answer whatever questions you have. So the first number is number 95. The next number is 185. And the next number is number 1.
Whoa.
So whoever was here really early today, what are the odds?
Somebody was here
So
early.
number 95, number 185. Is that you? Oh, can we get a microphone down here? I'm sorry, the gentleman in the blue shirt, right down here.
I got it.
Hi, it's an honor to see you, Senator Warren, and I've met you before, Congressman Keating. I don't know if you remember, but I've got so many questions I could ask.
Tell me your name.
My name is Laurel.
Hello, Laurel.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I have been finding it a little bit frustrating, as much as I'm so thankful and love Massachusetts. I'm finding it a little bit hard to resist as much as I would like to resist.
Whoa!
Because we have, I don't have to worry about how you're going to vote. You're going to vote for the things that I believe in and the values that I have, as does Congressman Keating. So I was hoping for some direction, in what else we could do. I worked on the congressional campaign in Georgia, and I'm just going to do everything I can to make sure we at least get one House of Congress back in 2018. And I didn't know if you had some inside advice on how we can help you do your job and help you get as many more allies as possible.
Thank you, Laurel. That's a great question. Thank you. So let me see if I can make some suggestions here, because it's a great question, and I want you. We want you, and we need you. So let me talk about the most effective ways. The first one, for anybody who hasn't already done it, join a group. And if you've already joined one group, think about joining even 2 or 3. And there's a reason for that. Groups help us get organized. 1 voice is loud, 2 voices is more than twice as loud. And 10 is more than that, and 10,000 becomes a force to be reckoned with. The groups help us stay organized on what is the issue right now. There is so much we're going to need to fight on, but right now it's health care that's teed up in front of us, because that's the vote that's coming right now. When we've got another vote, the groups help us stay focused. This is the one for right now. They help us trade around facts. They help us make sure that we've got the latest information. So the first one is the groups are really valuable. Join a group. The second one, recruit. We cannot just talk to each other. We need to talk to people who don't have an opinion. We need to talk to people who have a different opinion. And this is the time. You've got to reach out, not in a creepy way, but you, use your words. You've got to reach out. You've got to reach out. And I just want to make a suggestion on this. A way to do it is pick an issue that really matters to you. It doesn't have to be the most current, but the one that matters to you, that you really, 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 really are worried about the mounting student loan debt and the fact that the Republicans will not even let us take a vote on reducing the interest rate on student loans or on reducing the cost of college, or that you're really, really worried about this health care bill, that because it would cut assistance for people who are in nursing homes and have no other resources. Talk about it from a personal point of view and then into what the policy is. Try to do it calmly, but we've got to reach out and talk to each other, because we need all of America in this conversation. Because here's the deal. When they get in the conversation, a lot more folks agree with us than agree with them. Just take that health care bill, for example. Right now, the numbers show The health care bill is underwater. That is, more people dislike what the Republicans are trying to do than like it in all 50 states. Think about that. And when I say recruit, I absolutely mean recruit right here on the Cape. But I also mean all around the country. Democracy is changing. We're connected much more cheaply than we used to be. Get on the phone, get on email, get on your Facebook, get on Twitter, and reach out to people you know somewhere else. Relatives, people you went to school with, the neighbors who moved off. But the point is, reach out to people in states where they have Republican senators, because we need those people to use their voices as well. And I want to tell you something. This is just firsthand. I want you to know this. People say, oh, but I signed a petition and I made a phone call. Does it make any difference in Washington? They are not taking our calls. It's going to voicemail. It's making a difference in Washington. My colleagues are freaked out by this. Totally. They are paying attention. Have they moved as far as we want them to move? No, not yet. But could everybody in this room please remember that before we got here, the Republicans in the House voted 60-plus times to repeal the Affordable Care Act. The Senate was ready to rock and roll, had it teed up multiple times. Donald Trump said many, said many times on day one that he would repeal the Affordable Care Act. Well, I just got to say, day one came and went, and it didn't happen. We still have health care in this country. And why? Why? Because of you. We didn't have the votes. We didn't have the votes on the House side. We didn't have the votes on the Senate side. But the fact that there were enough people around this country saying, wait, what? You want to do what? Enough people slowed it up. And here was the thing. Once they slowed it up and started looking at it, I said, wait a minute. You mean the thing you're planning to cut here is what helps pay for Nana's nursing home? Whoa. The thing you're planning to cut here is what pays for my niece's baby's breathing tubes and the therapist who comes by when the baby was born with so many problems and needs this help. The part you're planning to cut is my neighbor who's wheelchair bound, needs somebody to come in for a couple of hours a day to help out, and that's what lets her stay in her home instead of having to move to an institution, and that's what the Republicans want to cut. They want to jam this bill through because every single day that goes by that bill is hanging out there, there are more and more Americans looking at it and saying, that's not who we are, and that is not what I want my government to do. So be strong. That's part two. Hold on. And then I'm just going to say one more on part three, and that is for everybody. You care about this, make a commitment. And it's a personal commitment. You can share it or not share it. It's up to you. But something you're going to do. Whether it's you're going to make a phone call every day, you're going to make a Facebook post every day, you're going to reach out to one new person every day, whatever it is. Because we need people who are in this fight, not just in the first flurry, not just in the moment when it's all in the headlines, but who are in this fight for the long haul. And you make a commitment like that, it's a commitment not only to change the world, it's a commitment that will change you. So we've got to all be in this one together. Please. Thank you. Great question there. Okay, who we got? Who's up next?
So 185 or number 1 or 95? Get in there.
95.
Senator, you're standing in a room with so many people who support
Tell
you.
me your name.
Dave Schrofer.
Good to see you, Dave.
Holy cow. It was your button that made that happen.
Oh, okay. There's a lot of power in those buttons.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I just want to say that I'm chair of one of the Democratic committees you're talking about. And there's one for every single town on Martha's Vineyard, and one in Nantucket, and 15 of them on the Cape. Every single one of them has a Facebook page, has a number of ways of communicating.
Yep.
What really concerns me, and I don't know how to get an answer to this, but there is a certain group of people who the opposition has figured out how to get to. There are people who lost jobs because the coal industry went down. There are people who lost jobs for all kinds of other reasons. Cheap steel coming in from other places closed down our steel mills. Everything we do for ecology has an effect on people who are pumping oil. Mm-hmm. How do we reach those people who have been really, really hurt? You talked about, and I really hope everybody in the country can hear what you just told us, and that is that the people who are the 90% aren't participating in the wealth of this country. Wealthiest country in the world, yeah, but only for 10% of us.
That's right.
So how do we reach those people and get them to hear this story and to understand the people who you voted for last time didn't give you what you were promised you would get?
So I'm going to make a pitch to you on this, Dave, and you'll decide on this. My pitch is they're ready to listen to the story because in no small part it's the story Donald Trump told. Donald Trump got out there and said, you've been left behind, and I'll fight for you. Donald Trump said, you've been forgotten, and I'll fight for you. The difference is with Donald Trump, he turned around the minute he got elected and just went in exactly the opposite direction. Remember all the fun he made of Goldman Sachs and how they were going to run the economy and how Hillary was tied to Goldman Sachs because of the speech? I remember all that. And what did Donald Trump do? Say that word again. There we go. Donald Trump, the minute he got elected, turned over this economy to the team from Goldman Sachs. He has now got so many Goldman Sachs bankers in his administration, they could open a branch office. It's true. It's true. Located in Trump Tower. I think they're going to locate it in the White House. So here's the deal. What we have to do is just get out and talk about why we're in this fight. And yeah, I told you the story of the economics, but ultimately for me, it's a story of our values. It's a story of what we believe. It's a story of who we fight for. Are we a people who believe that, if we just all pitch in a little, we can create some opportunity. That doesn't mean everybody's going to take advantage of it, but a little opportunity. And a little opportunity for all of us. A little opportunity for all of our kids. I believe that this is the message that all of America is ready to hear. I believe that. Running for office is an act of optimism.
Yeah.
It really is. And we may get knocked back, but we get out there and we fight because we truly believe that when we come together and talk about these issues, when we come together and vote, that we can actually make this a better country. And in the case of this economic story that I was talking to you about, this isn't some pie in the sky. This is something we already did. We did this once. We actually did this. We created opportunity. So a kid born when I was born had a 90% chance of doing better than her parents did. Today, less than 50-50. Think about that. That's two fundamentally different Americas. And I'll tell you this part. The America that believes in opportunity is an America worth fighting for. And I think that's what we got to do, Dave. All the way on this. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, the gentleman in the turquoise shirt. Were you number one? Were you the first guy here? Whoa, let's get any young person. Yes, thank you.
Woo! Woo! All right.
All right. Quick, before I ask my question, Joe and myself have been here since about 10 a.m.
Oh, God. Joe, stand up. Stand up, Joe. Joe's ready. Way to go, Joe. That's number 2, right there. Okay, tucking
I'll
his
look
shirt
for
in.
it.
Okay, looking good. It's good. It's a good look on you, Joe. Okay.
So my question is, I'm a student at Nauset Regional High School.
All right.
And I've taken several government courses that really have made me interested in government. For example, AP Government with Michael McNamara. And I'm wondering how students like me and students that took that course can get involved in one of your guys' campaigns and volunteer.
Whoa.
Wow.
And last question, last comment. I wrote a letter for you, and I'm wanting to give it to you.
So that's fabulous. Here, just bring it on up.
In case I have a little side comment, this will be fun.
Way to go. All right. Done. You're in. Okay. This is fabulous, but I do want to say to all of you, do get involved in the campaigns. We're both up in 18. We're going to be out there. You'll have offices. We'll probably do joint offices. Julian, you want to say a word about people getting involved too?
So we actually were talking about this behind stage. So one of the most effective things we can do, right? We tend to get politically involved every 2 years when the cycle comes along. And I really believe organizing is like flexing a muscle, right? And so if you let it kind of, you don't work it out every 2 years, every 4 years, every 6 years, it's a lot harder to start things. So we have actually been organizing, the folks who worked on Congressman Keating's campaign, the folks who worked on my campaign, we've actually been organizing and getting people involved and saying, hey, look, you know, there's not a lot we can do right now necessarily in congressional or state senate races, but we've got work to do in our towns. We've got work to help people get elected to selectmen. We've got work to do with our town councils. And so all 3 of us are supporting the Cape and Islands Democratic Council, which has tremendous leadership. Is Sandy Milano here? She's going to kill me for pointing her on. Anyway, she's right there. And afterwards, we're going to find, we got plenty of opportunities and knocking doors and making calls. That's how you win these races. And if we keep doing that and keep that muscle toned, we're going to go into 2018 stronger than we even can imagine we are.
Yeah.
I would just say this, that I want to go back on the time machine, not to the 1700s, but there was a time when I first was running for office. I was 23 years old, and in that campaign, it was a very controversial time, but the number one issue in my campaign at the time was my age. People said I was too young. They don't say that now. And I do want to leave before the age becomes an issue again. But in that early time, if I had listened to people and not said, I have something I can offer, and if I was intimidated at all by that, I wouldn't be here probably. And the one thing that the younger people and high school students, you have so much more at stake looking forward in your lifetime than anyone else. And I would say this. That the biggest inhibiting factor might be with a lot of people's own awareness or intimidation that they can't make the difference. All you have to do is believe you can and do it, and I'll tell you, people will be so enthused with your involvement as they were decades ago with me that they will enjoy it. They'll listen to younger people because you can offer things in a perspective that they don't have. So please, the biggest obstacle is just in your own mind.
We got you. Okay. Go ahead. We got the next one? We're good. I already got
All
this
right.
kid. He's mine.
All right. We're going to go look in how you pull papers after today. The next number in the queue is 145, followed by 120, and number 71. Please make your way to the microphone.
71?
145, 120, and 71.
We got anybody? People may be changing their minds at this point.
I know. Well, we
Up
see, oh,
here.
there's a hand up there, way up in
Okay.
the balcony.
Up in the balcony? Yay.
Hi, I'm 145. I'm over here.
Oh, I see your hand. Good. And what's your name?
My name is Mayrai Hall, and I'm
Uh-huh.
actually here from Western Massachusetts.
Wow. Fabulous.
Before I ask my question, I just have to say, Elizabeth, that there are so many people I know who just are so glad you are where you are. Because we would be hopeless.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So here's my question. I'm going to be as diplomatic as possible. We all know we have a very fickle, egotistical president.
That was diplomatic.
I worked on it.
I can tell.
I was a
Polished it
teacher
up.
too.
Okay.
And years ago, when he was a Democrat, he supported single-payer health insurance.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if there's some way the Democrats could sort of like play on the ego, play on the, it could be really big, really huge. Huge. And get him to bring single payer back and say it was his idea.
You know, I will make a point here about, A, you're really diplomatic. But B, this isn't about credit. I would be really happy to give all the credit in the world to Donald Trump if he would improve our healthcare system rather than try to destroy it. That's what we need to do. And it's not about taking credit. It's about trying to come together and work to make people's lives better. I do want to say this one thing. I hope we get a chance to talk more about healthcare. But one thing about healthcare that I think, again, has separated us from the Republicans generally. It's not just Donald Trump. We got to remember, the majority in the House, majority in the Senate. Our team believes that healthcare is a basic human right. And you fight for basic human rights. And that's just not where the other team is right now. And that's going to make this hard. But we're going to stay in there on it. Okay, who else have we got, Julian?
120?
120?
Is at 120 out there? Anyone 120? Going once? Twice? Sold? And then 71. There's no 71? Right there, up in the balcony again.
Woo! Balcony's going big. Okay.
Hi, I'm happen to be 120. My name is Tom Weinman.
Oh, there you are.
And actually, it's
Did you say Donald? Don?
Tom.
Tom. Just didn't hear.
And actually, my question follows somewhat parallel to the previous. And
Okay.
I wanted to, it seems like the conversation isn't happening about single payer and the good reasons for it. And to me, the big failing and the largest problems that we are having with the Affordable Care Act are the increasing premiums and the non-affordability. And it seems like the insurance companies have had their profits and their time over the last 7 years to demonstrate whether or not they can participate.
Right.
And that the profits should go away on them, and
Yep.
it should be, reverted. Profits should not be part of everyone's struggle to pay for health care.
So let me offer how I see this fight shaping up right now. I think we have three things we need to do, and I think we have to do them in order. The first one is we have to defend the Affordable Care Act as it is. We cannot let the Republicans cut it. We can't let them destroy the health exchanges. We cannot let them take an axe to Medicaid. And I want to say on the part, by the way, on Medicaid, yeah, the Medicaid expansion was part of the Affordable Care Act. This business of going after Medicaid overall They're going a lot deeper and in a lot different direction than just trying to deal with the Affordable Care Act. They're trying to change fundamentally what we've said as a nation. We're willing to put in some money to provide protection for all of us, because we never know whose grandparent is going to need nursing home care, who's going to get hit by a bus and have a disability and need some extra help, who's going to have a baby in the family that's going to need extra care. And we all pitch in together so that there's some basic support. So I think the first thing we have to do is we have to defend. We have got to fight them back on this idea that they can just break the whole system. That's number one, and that's why we're in this. Number two, I think there are a lot of places where we can just make this a whole lot better in a short period of time. So, for example, we need to cut the cost of prescription drugs, and there are just multiple ways to do that. Multiple ways to do that. You know, I've got a bill, Bernie Sanders has got a bill that I'm part of that says, let's be able to import our drugs from Canada. There are a lot of drugs that we're paying 10 times as much as they pay in Canada. And here's the deal. It would both bring down costs, out-of-pocket costs for everybody in this room who's got a prescription drug, but it also would help bring down the cost of the insurance and bring down the cost to the government, which means there'd be more money to spend in other areas where they're needed. So that's part two. There are changes we have known from the beginning that we needed to make in the Affordable Care Act, and we couldn't get a single Republican to come to the table to negotiate with us over that. And the result was we just had to leave it locked, because the fear was open the door and they're going to come in and try to repeal it outright. But part three, where we have got to be headed, is we need to talk about how to do the expansion of Medicare. We're familiar with Medicare. We know how Medicare works. Medicare has worked for people over 65 now for 2 generations, and it has made a huge difference in the lives of Americans all across this country. It is a good model for us to work from, and we've got a lot of options on how we could do it, how we could do the buy-in, how we could change the age ranges. But make the program out there that's going to work for people across this country. That's the direction we got to move.
Yeah.
I think that's where we need to go.
And if I could, expansion of Medicare is inevitable. It will happen. And it's great to be in a crowd thinking forward on this. But I just wanted to really give you one exclamation point on the health bill that passed the House. The similar version, I think it is even worse, the first version that was in the Senate, and how it affects people here in Cape Cod in my district. Just one example about prescription drug cards. If you're on Medicare and you have prescription drug coverage under that bill, you will be paying an average out-of-pocket cost of $1,100 in year one. This is how it affects you. So when we're talking about defending where we are, we really have to drive home the fact that, and that's my district, that's your neighbors, that's you. And that is real. Those numbers are real. So we have a lot at stake in this fight. And if it wasn't for all of you, I think it might have been lost already.
It would have been. It would have been. So good. Thank you.
All right, number 71, going once, twice. I don't see 71. All right, we're going to, oh, it's right there. Oh,
71.
all right, while he's, I'll call 2 more numbers while he's getting there. If you're 113, please make your way to the mic. And 186. 113 and 186.
Hello.
Hello, sir.
My name is Tom Baldwin, and I'm from New Jersey. I'm just visiting.
Hi, Tom. We like visitors.
And unfortunately, I'm one of the few surviving Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh,
All right.
Oh, wow. That's fabulous.
We have another guy.
I sort of have to qualify that. I passed all my tests, and I had orders to go down to Tuskegee Airmen to begin my flight training. But the week I was supposed to go down, President Truman integrated the forces.
Yeah.
So I got sent to Kelly Field in Texas, and they sort of had to take my physical all over again. This time I can't pass my eye exam. But I am allowed, since I have my orders, to be called a Tuskegee Airman.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you, Tom.
So my question is this, ma'am. Besides yourself and Senator Sanders, and I certainly hope either of you run, you'd be excellent candidates. Who do you think? Who do you think would be good candidates besides you and Senator Sanders? Who would be viable good candidates to run on the Democratic ticket?
Oh, all right, okay. So, here's what I'm going to do on this question. No, and I'm serious about this. I'm actually really serious about this. Democrats, God bless us one and all, get really excited about presidential elections. And that means every 4 years we show up, we volunteer, we turn out. Republicans show up every election. And the consequence of that is just over time, even when I don't think they should, Republicans pick up a few more seats here and a few more seats there and a few more seats here. We split them on the presidential, and I know how important the presidential is. But right now, we're just halfway through 2017. And my view on this is we got two huge fights on our hands. It's everything Trump and a majority of Republicans in the Senate and the House are going to do to us over the next 15 months. And it's health care, it's financial reform, it's the budget, it's education, it's the environment, it's just one after, it's Russia, it's the Middle East, right? One after another. And that we got to be in this fight. We got to be focused on this fight and stay on this fight as they keep coming up. And the second is we got to build for 2018. We have got to be there and show that Democrats will turn out in 2018. If we can't make Democrats turn out in 2018, then we got a big problem going forward. 2018 has got to be our year. So, Tom, I'm going to come back after the election in 2018, and you can ask that question, and then we'll focus on what we're going to do in 2020. Is that fair? Okay. Thank you, Tom.
If I could.
Thank you.
Sir, thank you for your service. I have in my own district in Plymouth a Tuskegee veteran too, who's in his 90s and he's doing terrific. He's more fit than I am, but I want to bring a point that Laurel had made before, and that's the fact that you're from New Jersey, sir. So when we're talking about what we can do here, especially in the Cape Cod area where so many people come from other states, there's another avenue we can do, because you might want to take this message home to Governor Christie or to some people in New Jersey.
Go get him, Tom. Okay.
All right, I think we have someone up in the balcony.
Hello, my name is Richard, and it's an honor, Senator, to be able to ask you a question.
Hi, Richard.
This is in regard to presidential elections. I've been around a while, and I've seen that the Republicans win these presidential elections with inferior candidates, and primarily they do it by demonizing their opponents.
Yep.
I mean, if we look back, they ridiculed Al Gore. They swift-boated John Kerry.
Yep.
And then look what they did to Hillary. I mean, crooked Hillary, and they've even started going after you.
Yep.
And whatever strategy we have isn't working. And I'm just kind of wondering what's in the future. I mean, it's clearly the path we're on is not working.
Right. So, Richard, I'm worried about this. I'm worried about democracy in a world where this kind of thing goes on. You know, I mean, I've already seen it. You're exactly right. Before I even had an opponent, the negative ads started, the PACs, and the fake news. Terrible things about my family, about me. And the question is, how are we going to fight back against that? How is democracy going to survive that? I think we live in a moment that's the reinvention of democracy. And not for the first time. I think democracy, as we came out of World War II, looked different in how people thought about these issues and learned about these issues. I think democracy, as we came out of the Vietnam War, looked different. Now we live in a world of really cheap connection, but an overwhelming amount of it. And the ability to slice off people, to put people in bubbles so they only hear the same information over and over. Fake news, to get it out there, not to everybody, it doesn't get picked up by mainstream media, but man, you keep banging it into the ears of 100,000 people, 500,000 people, you can swing an election over that. So we're in a moment when we're trying to learn this, and I'm just being as honest with you as I can. We're trying to figure out how to do this. And this goes back to the question I had earlier about the very first question that I had. And that is, how do we fight back? And part of it, it's not going to be all of it, part of it is this notion that we have got to get better connected with each other. And not just with the each other who are already committed, but with the each other who are in the middle, with the each other who may disagree with us on some issues, but maybe we can pull them in on other issues. In other words, the old model that it's going to come from the top, and we're going to have 3 newscasters who are going to tell us how the world works, and we're going to have 2 senators and 1 congressman who's going to tell us how the world works, and people will either line up with that or not. That world doesn't exist anymore. We live in a world that's coming from the grassroots, that is the grassroots. And here's the good news. Our grassroots has energy. Our grassroots is engaged. We have this moment in front of us when we can reinvent democracy, when we can get the word out ourselves, when we can get behind people, get behind ideas, fight the fights that need to be fought, advance the ideas that need to be advanced, get people in Washington, and not just get them there, but hold them accountable every single day. That's how we can make Washington work. That's how we can make democracy work again. Richard, I'll be blunt. I'm not 100% sure if we're going to be able to pull this off. But I go back to where I started. This is the optimism of running for office. It is the optimism of democracy. I believe that if we work hard enough, if we work long enough, if we work smart enough, that we, the people, will take back our country again. That's what I believe. I believe it, Richard.
Yeah.
You bet.
So ladies and gentlemen, that was our last question.
That was not our last question. You're just making that up.
Apparently I am.
Don't we have one more? Was that our last question, really?
According to the handlers, but we can ignore them.
One more. One more.
Is
then
that
I guess we
186?
do have to catch an airplane.
Great.
Okay. One more. You got one more number?
186.
186 is right here.
186. We're not leaving without you.
I'm Mark Forrest. I'm
Hi,
from the
Mark.
town of Yarmouth. I am a selectman in Yarmouth, and I'm also chairman of the Board of Housing Assistance Corporation. I also
My
teach
God.
American government
Yep.
here at the community college. Thank you both for being here. Thank you, Julian, for the job that you're doing. First of all, I want to thank you, both Congressman Keating and you, Senator, for the work that you're doing in helping us fight on so many fronts, but particularly with affordable housing.
Yes.
Every place we go, every place from one end of Cape Cod to the other, affordable housing is a major issue, and I want to thank you for putting up a good fight for us to hang on to the funding that we need to address this problem. But the other issue, and I learned this from my days working in the town manager's office in Provincetown, that every time the congressman comes by or the senator comes by, we got to lay out our local problems, our local issues. The other big issue we're wrestling with here on Cape Cod is clean water.
Yep.
It's a huge issue. It's a huge problem. The price tag is $4 billion.
Yep.
And we're going to need some help from the federal government, all right? We can't do this alone. So I wanted to get your thoughts, both your thoughts and yours, Congressman, a little bit in terms of how we might be able to get the federal government to help us out.
Okay, good. Bill, you want to start on
Well,
this, and then I'll pick up.
The greatest vehicle, as you know, Mark, and thanks for all your service as well, the greatest vehicle is the revolving fund that comes from the federal government for funds. And these things are under attack. And what I had seen in the House for the last several years where they were actually pulling back on monitoring of water, funds for clean water, those things now that were stopped in the Senate because they were going to be vetoed by the president at the time are now going through. And when you're talking about regulations, that's dirtying our water as well. And we really, and I hope we can keep this up, on a note of optimism, this is what I want to tell you, that we were, and I think you're aware of this, the laboratory experiment for all kinds of innovation. We were getting grants disproportionately from the EPA because they were good grants. We have a great group of scientists and researchers and local people committed to the issue. We won those grants time and time again. Those grants are drying up as well. So we have to keep fighting for them. We haven't seen the impact of that yet because we're still getting some of the funds from the last administration. But this, again, rings true to really the urgency of acting. We cannot wait 4 years, 6 years. Some of the decisions that are being made now, we will live with the results for decades. And it's going to cost more money, and sometimes you can't mitigate some of the pollution that's there if you don't act. So I'm glad you're working and continue to work on this. We had regionalization in Cape Cod. Now, if you want to be optimistic about something, we actually had regionalization along a lot of these issues where towns came together, and they came together strongly. And there's a lawsuit out there, by the way, that I think people tend to forget. And if we don't act and we don't move, we'll have the courts coming in. And if any of you were ever in the regions where the MWRA was before, you can get a sense what will happen economically as well. There will be betterments on your homes, and this is not just an important environmental issue. I would say it's one of the most important economic issues for people here. It'll have an enormous effect, a harmful effect on the value of their homes and on the tourism and this whole region going forward. We have one sole source aquifer on Cape Cod. We cannot afford failure here. So thank you.
Good. Bill is right. I obviously endorse everything that he said on this, but I just want to take this back to where I started this about big arc. The best estimates are right now in the United States that I've read is that we, over the last 35 years, have underspent on infrastructure by about $3 trillion. Just stop and think, just back of the envelope, just do the math. If we had, in Massachusetts, had an additional $3 billion a year to spend on our basic infrastructure, on our water, on our bridges, on our sewers, right? It would be a different Commonwealth. We would have a lot more opportunities out here on the Cape and all the way through this Commonwealth. This goes back to the fundamental question that I wanted to start this with, and that is, what is the job of the federal government? Provide for the common defense? Absolutely. To regulate, do the equivalent of the traffic lights? Yeah, you bet. But it's also to give us the chance to pitch in a little so that we can build a better future, not just for a handful of people, but so we can build a better future for all of us. to say that we're going to build an America that's about opening doors. We're going to build an America that gives everybody a chance to get in the game, a chance to build some security for themselves and their families, a chance to deal with the catastrophes that life sometimes deals out. I believe in that America. I am the daughter of a janitor who ended up going to a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And that one open door led to another and another and another, and I ended up as a professor and a United States Senator. I am deeply grateful to that America. I am grateful, and I am determined down to my toes that I will give it everything I've got to make this once again an America of opportunity for the next generation of our children. Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Julian. You guys are fabulous.
We took the mic away from him.
Fabulous. Oh, you did. You're right.
We're doing photos, right?
Thank you.
So-
Thank you